This is our reaction to the Japanese Grand Prix qualifying.
In Q1, we lost Stroll in 16th, Gasly 17th, Magnussen 18th, Sargent 19th, and Zhou was lost in 20th.
I think the standout from the losses in Q1 was definitely Stroll in a car that, is with Alonso is going into Q3. To be eliminated in Q1 is quite embarrassing. I think again that's just demonstrating the level that he's at.
Car didn't look particularly happy with Stroll, but also that car is upgraded for this Grand Prix, so I would have expected more, but I don't know, it just seemed that Stroll didn't have the handle of that car. Maybe the upgrades don't suit him. Maybe that is something that they can work on over the course of the debrief this evening, but definitely didn't look happy in that car.
I think there's a track record with Aston Martin, though, isn't there? Over last season, starting very well, the upgrades coming along, making the car worse. They said during pre-season that they're going to get on top of that, and the upgrades will they're going to actually progress with them. But the first upgrade package had this season on Stroll's car, it seems to be dropping them back again. But surely, even in that Aston Martin, you should be getting out of Q1.
Yeah, I would definitely say that Aston Martin should be higher up the grid, probably more towards the Q3s, 7, 8.
Logan Sargent, another one again, after last week couple of weeks ago in Australia when he had his chassis taken away from him and Albon taking that was a very controversial move. But then this weekend in the qualifying, he's showing the reason why Albon got his chassis, which is, again, poor qualifying from Sargent. Obviously, he crashed in the free practice as well. It's not looking good for him.
I mean, the times sort of say it all for Sargent. A 1:30.1, and his teammate, his best time is a 1:29.7 in Q2. I mean, not a massive amount of difference, really, but also sort of one that I think he always seems to be on the wrong end of the stick. He's not the driver that has that break and is a couple of tenths ahead. He's always the driver that's a couple of tenths behind.
Exactly. He's always a bit like with Hamilton and Russell. Hamilton struggled, hasn't been far off of Russell, but has always been eliminated before. And the problem is, it's all about the way getting through to the next round of qualifying. It doesn't matter if you're a tenth or a thousandth off of that. You don't make it. The stopwatch never lies. Guan Yu Zhou, again, the only teammate he's the only Alpha that didn't make it out of Q1. Not setting the world alight, considering the team obviously moving over to Audi, and there's lots of potential, good things. Again, he's not getting out of Q1. Bottas,
the car
getting out of Q1.
Particularly out of the chicane, the car was trying to turn left as he was trying to go round, the last, I suppose it's a kink really, isn't it, out of the chicane onto the start-finish line, and it looked a handful. Whereas Bottas, fantastic lap to get himself into Q2, so I think, relatively speaking, there are times when Bottas just blows Zhou out of the water and makes him look really average, to be honest with you. But that lap was, I was watching it and thought, that's a really solid, great lap from Bottas that showed his fantastic skills around Suzuka.
And then, of course, a mention as well that Alpine with Gasly not getting out of Q1 with his teammates getting out of Q1, not very good for Gasly. I know that car is like driving a bus. He didn't get out, and neither did Kevin Magnussen. There's every single person that's been eliminated from Q1 has it's only one car from each team. There's no teammate. There's only one of each car that's there, so it makes it even worse. If you've got you and your teammate that go out in Q1, you can say, right, it's the car, but it's just their performances today have not been on par with their teammates.
I think Ocon's drive in Q1 was really good. It was. Hopefully, it shows a statement of intent for that team, because they have been languishing pretty badly at the back of the grid since the start of the season. So Gasly on the radio was complaining of a lack of traction coming out of corners. So hopefully that is something that now...
Or a lack of actually having a decent car.
Well, I think that car could run in the midfield before the midpoint of the season. But it depends on whether they go upgrades wise. But Ocon and Gasly are drivers that deserve to be higher up the grid than what they are at the moment, in my opinion.
I'm not sure they're going to be going into the midfield this season. I don't see them overtaking even the likes of Williams and Haas at the moment. I don't see them getting any further up. But anyway, that's another topic, another video.
So, in Q2, we lost the following drivers. Daniel Ricciardo in 11th, Nico Hülkenberg in 12th, Valtteri Bottas in 13th, Albon in 14th, and Esteban Ocon in 15th as the final driver eliminated in Q2.
I think the standout there is in that Alpine from Esteban. Very good lap to get into Q2. Every time an Alpine gets into Q2, you listen to the driver and it's like they've won the championship. They're so happy to get through because they're happy putting stellar laps in to even drag that complete pile of rubbish, through. The aerodynamic disaster. In fact, Adrian knew his worst nightmare, that car. It's just dragging it through. They're very happy and good on him.
No, I hopefully it is a step in the right direction for that Alpine team. As I said, Ocon, Gasly deserve to be fighting for points, not for fighting for who comes last in a race.
Well, they're both race winners, aren't they? They're both race winners, so they both have got the talent to win a race, manage a race and win it. So... I think it's just at the moment it's a blip. Hopefully, as you said, in the season they make some progression.
I think for me, Nico Hülkenberg, 12th, he has been putting that Haas in some good spots that they can then go off and exploit in races. So I would say Nico Hülkenberg for me is the standout of the Q2 drives. He has outperformed K-Mag quite a bit so far this season, so hopefully he can have a good race. I think possibility of some points tomorrow, maybe an outside chance.
I think there is a very outside chance, but I do also think that this track is so aerodynamically focused. I just don't know if the Haas will have. I don't know if the Haas will have that. I don't know. I don't think we'll get the point. I think we're just outside the points. I don't think they're quite there. I think in Jeddah, when they got their decent haul of points, it's such a tight track, they can defend it quite well. However, Suzuka, I feel they're just not gonna have the pace to hold onto points. But Hülkenberg, as like you said, has been the form he's shown this season since coming back into F1 with Haas has been phenomenal, and he has done a stellar job making K-Mag look pretty average at the moment.
I think the thing is you've got to be there to pick up the pieces. If somebody has a crash up front, it can turn from being outside of the points to in the points. So for me, I'm looking and going, it's a handy position to be in. You can exploit that. So for me, Nico has put in the drive of the Q2 session. Q3 result. In this session, we had Yuki Tsunoda in 10th, George Russell in 9th, Charles Leclerc in 8th, Lewis Hamilton 7th, Oscar Piastri in 6th, Fernando Alonso in 5th, Carlos Sainz in 4th, Lando Norris in 3rd, Sergio Perez in 2nd, and the standard running order, Max Verstappen on pole.
Yeah.
The times that Verstappen put in, to be honest with you, really looked at that and just went, it's never in doubt, really. So it was.
If you were a gambling man, you were not going to bet against Max to get pole today. You were just never going to get gamble all that away. You'd be stupid to put any money apart from on Max. He was going to get pole today. It was written before he even got to the track. Also wanted to bounce back after Australia.
Definitely.
He didn't want to the critics to be going, Max is now washed and that car's not going to be good and Ferrari up and coming. There's so much hype around Ferrari now. Red Bull just went, hang on a minute. Remember where we are, remember where they are, and they wanted to prove that today, and Max did. Even Perez did, to be fair, to get second. A 1-2 lockout
Strong.
Proves it. And
unfortunately, it does. I think for me, the disappointment of the session was Ferrari. Didn't quite understand the whole Charles Leclerc only doing one run. I thought, obviously reflected in his 8th. Sainz, almost 5/10 off of Verstappen's pole. Again, for how many times have we said this? Ferrari turn up on a Friday, and by the time Saturday rolls around, they've completely fallen apart. So, 4th and 8th, there's damage limitation to be done on Sunday.
It's kind of, it was a weird one from Ferrari. And like you said, they kind of had a bit of a weird, the performance levels just dropped away compared to what it was in Australia. However, on the other side, Mercedes, I know their times weren't brilliant, and I know they kind of weren't up there, but the car looked much more stable. The porpoising had completely stopped. There was no bouncing on that car, and you couldn't see any bouncing on that car for the first time in a very long time at all. It wasn't scraping the floor. It looked so much more stable than it ever has done, and that is really promising. Even Lewis Hamilton said it's really promising that they finally kind of getting the car in a stable window now. They just got to find the performance and the stability together.
So good that Hamilton has beaten Russell in the qualifying battles. I think he needs that a bit for his confidence as well, considering that, let's face it, Mercedes race in Australia was a bit of a car crash in literal terms for Russell, but hopefully, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about their race pace at present.
My standout driver in Q3 was Lando Norris. I think that P3 in that McLaren, was the closest outside of the Red Bulls to Red Bull. And the lap he did was phenomenal. I don't think he could get much more out of that car. Piastri was P6, so again, the time wasn't massively different, but he wasn't right behind him, so that really does prove that Lando had such a stellar lap. They were saying that McLaren would be really quick around Suzuka. Last season they were really quick around there, so this season they've kind of kept that going. Fantastic lap, and I think he stand out in Q3.
Yep, it was Lando definitely out of a good number of the drivers had the biggest delta gain over the course of all 3 of the qualifying sessions. So, to be honest with you, McLaren, I don't think they could really get any better than 3rd on the grid today with Verstappen and Perez. Car looks again back on the rails. Lando was, I think, can pat himself on the back, puts himself in a good position for the race, ahead of the Ferrari, ahead of the Aston Martin, ahead of both Mercedes. It's sort of putting McLaren into that position where they could potentially be the second team on the grid.
Fight for a podium as well. They potentially could be fighting for 2nd or 3rd. I reckon that Norris, if he has a really good race and maybe just a little bit of luck, he could probably beat Perez. I don't think Verstappen is going to get beaten here. I think he's going to just fly, and he's just going to, like he did in Bahrain, 20-odd seconds away. I think that car is just, as this track is so aerodynamically dependent, that car is the most aerodynamically efficient, and it's just going to, I think there's no one who's going to get in close to it.
He's got Perez as well to rear gun for him as well. He's got Perez to protect him, so that gives him automatically a second within the first lap anyway, I would say. So I think for me, over the course of qualifying session, Fernando Alonso was my standout driver of all the qualifying sessions, to be honest with you. That Aston Martin Fernando always outdoes the car. It's been his trait for many years. But getting that car into 5th is no mean feat. He's beaten a McLaren, Mercedes and a Ferrari to that position. And hopefully, again, another good haul of points for Aston Martin, courtesy of Mr. Alonso. So we can see what he can do tomorrow.
See what Fernando can cook up tomorrow. But with a Fernando, you've always got hope and a chance. And considering how poorly, Stroll did, and obviously we got the upgrades and all that, but considering how poorly they did and the difference, Fernando shows that an elite driver can do with an average. Well, I say that Aston Martin's an average car. I think it's just a bit above an average. You've kind of got the bang in the middle of bad and good. I think it's between average and good. I think that car, but he's still outperforming.
I think that Aston Martin. I don't know. That's a controversial comment. I think that Aston Martin is potentially just a bit behind the Mercedes at the moment. And
yeah, so between average and good. So it's not brilliant, but it's not average. It's kind of slap bang. It's almost 3/4 of the way.
But Fernando, he brings quite a lot to that car, so they just need to find themselves a better number 2 driver. Becomes a Ramco F1 team instead of Aston Martin. There's a possibility, isn't there, of putting a better driver in. So, but at this point in time, more points means more prizes. So hopefully Fernando can have a strong race.
Ben, the Japanese Grand Prix tomorrow is going to be up very early, 6 a.m. Make sure you're up for it, because I know that I will be.
I will be as well. I'll be dialing in at 6, nice and early.
Hopefully, I say hopefully, there's no Red Bull, and the Red Bull kind of something happens to them, or the car breaks down or something, so we have a really competitive race, because I can just see Max flying off.
It'd be nice to have another Australia. It would be very nice to see a race that is a bit of drama in.
Exactly. So hopefully for that. So thank you very much for watching our reaction to the Japanese Grand Prix. If you got this far, as we always say, leave us a like, leave us a comment, and if you would like to subscribe and join us for more F1 content, then please do. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
Bye.